Here's a couple action shots while wearing the pieces diving. That's the Omega. This is just a gratuitous shot of the Tudor over in the Bahamas. And here I am wearing the Tudor while diving, and it's right there next to my dive computer. And that's the perspective that I'm taking when talking about these watches when it comes to their durability, usability, and look of the watch. All three of these have been worn underwater, as you saw earlier in the video. And that's the perspective that I'm taking as I talk about these from a diver's perspective and from just wearing them on topside as well. We'll talk about these as a group, and then I will put them on individually and talk about the features that differentiate them one from the other. But let's first talk about what they are. This one here is a Tudor Pelagos. And I have an in-depth review of this already on the YouTube universe, and you can click on that over in the video description and watch that. Right over here is the Omega Seamaster Professional 300, and that's the one with the black bezel, the black ceramic bezel. And down here is a Rolex Submariner 16610 F serial number, which makes it produced sometime between 2003 and 2004. This is a no-holes case version of it. So these three watches are Swiss. The three of them are COSC certified chronometer movements. These two have an in-house made movement. The Omega takes an ETA movement and modifies it and makes some changes to make it their own. Now, it's arguable that it is an in-house made movement since the Swatch group that owns Omega also owns ETA. But you could argue that one way or the other. These Rolex and Tudor both own the factory where the movement is made and design the movement, and it's all produced in a vertical fashion. Now, the three of them keep time fantastic. They, especially obviously if you keep them in your watch wind or wear them every day, you shouldn't have to make too many adjustments to maintain time. There's going to be some difference in seconds plus or minus, but that all falls within the range of the COSC Institute. So let's talk about them individually, and I'll compare and contrast them as I put them on my wrist. Now, this Tudor here has a really nice bracelet lock, glide lock. It's very similar to the one that Rolex is putting on all their newer sports models. So there's a setting here that allows this to move up and down in a spring load, and there's also a non-movable setting you can put it on. So basically you can choose either way and tighten it and loosen it as you put it on all day, and as you work out or get hot or get cold and your wrist contracts and expands, you can continually adjust how comfortable it feels. Now, this thing is 42 millimeters of solid titanium. It is a big son of a gun. And if it wasn't titanium, I would probably say that it would weigh probably around 350 million pounds. Just kidding. No, it would be pretty damn heavy. And the fact that it's titanium actually makes it wear somewhat smaller of a watch. I will say, though, that the thickness of the case, because this thing does go, it is resistant to, can I get it? 500 meters. They had to kind of overbuild it. Here's your helium escape valve. So if you are an Oxford long sleeve shirt type wearing dude or gal, you probably will not be able to slip the cuff over the thickness of this watch, and it will kind of hang back here. So this is one that I don't usually wear if I'm wearing long sleeves. You'll notice that there are some scratches around the bracelet and the case, and this watch is about a year old, and it has gotten a lot of use. And you know, it does get scratched up, but it is a tool watch, and that really doesn't bother me very much. As you can see, the crystal is perfectly, there isn't a single scratch on that sapphire crystal, as well as the bezel. The bezel is pristine. Now, this bezel is a 60 click all the way around, and there's zero wiggle in this thing. It is solid. It is built like a dang tank. See, there's zero, and then the pearl here, there isn't a pearl. It's just a little round indice. And I will tell you, when I show the lume a little bit later in the video of all the watches, the entire all the markings around the bezel actually loom up in a really nice big blue. Same thing with the indices on the inside, and there you got your snowflake hand. Some people say that there's too much writing at the bottom of the watch and it fucks with their head. It doesn't bother me one bit. I find this a very handsome watch. And out of the three watches you see down there, or the four watches here, I get most questions about this watch, what it is. Because Tudor just came back to the States with a bang. And a lot of folks are like, what is that thing? Tell them about it. Love this watch. Fantastic, comfortable, all day wearing. Nice taper on the bracelet. Great timekeeper. Super comfortable with the micro adjustments and the dynamic. I call it dynamic adjustment. I don't know what this is really called, but that's what I call it. Really super comfortable for the size. It does wear kind of big, but if you know that, you can get away with it. Let's put this one down and let's put on the Omega Seamaster Professional. Now this guy has been on James Bond's wrist, the earlier Bond, but it is a pretty handsome piece. It is 41 millimeters, 1,000 feet or 300 meter water resist. It is a very comfortable watch. It wears thinner than the Tudor. It is thinner, significantly thinner. Compare them next to each other. It does have a helium escape valve. You'll notice that there isn't a coinage around the bezel, but it is quite grippy the way it is. This has got an automatic helium escape valve. This has got a manual helium escape valve. Does that mean anything to the average diver or even desk diver or average wearer? Not a goddamn thing. All it means is that if you were a saturation diver and you're in a diving bell and you're ascending from deep depths where you've been breathing helium mixed in with your oxygen, the helium molecules are so small that it will get inside of the mechanism of the watch, and if they don't have a way to escape, they'll pop off the crystal. Who cares, really? It's just saying you have one, I guess. And this one has a nice little HE, the periodic symbol for the gas. No holes case, really sturdy watch, well constructed. I think it looks great on the hand. It's on your arm. It's actually pretty handsome. It's got a smaller crown guards. I love the shine of the ceramic bezel. I like the red on the second hand, and I like the red under the Omega lettering there. Also, it doesn't have a matte face. It looks a little lacquered, and it's got pretty good anti-reflective coating. The crystal is a little bit domed, so it is more prone to get scratches. This one luckily doesn't have a single one of them. But when you look at the bracelet, this thing doesn't have a taper, and this clasp here, as you can see, is what I would call a scratch magnet. At first it used to bother me, but I then realized that, this thing is a tool watch. It's going to get scratched up. If I send it to service, it'll come back completely buffed up, and then it'll get scratched up again. And you know what? These are story scars, I guess you could say. But the important bits are not scratched up. Let's talk about this bezel here. It is 120 clicks around. It lines up perfectly with all the markers when you get it right on. I will say though, after continuous use, it does have a little bit of wiggle in it that the Tudor and the Rolex don't. So I would, if you have to ask me about build quality between Omega and Rolex and Tudor, I would say it's very, very, very close, but maybe not quite up to par, perhaps, to compare them to those two houses. But there she is. Big complication on the side, easy to see as well. I like this watch a lot. It gets a lot of wrist time. This one, when you put on if you put on a long sleeve shirt, it fits in there perfectly. So I guess you can go from the dive locker to the boardroom without having to sweat too much or fret. Now let's get the Rolex on the wrist. Now this thing is a classic, arguably the dive watch that started it all. There are models that came before the Submariner, but you could say that Rolex took it and marketed it and made the dive watch a viable market segment, the sports watch. And basically, this is the benchmark by which every other dive watch is measured. Now, as you see, it's got a pretty incredible magnifier for the date. That's something that Rolex is known for. It just pops right out at you. There are 5 lines of text. This one is a 300 meter water resist. Like I said, no holes case, solid end links. It's got the old style buckle on it. The new one is very similar to the Tudor one. It's not the same. I said similar. But out of the 3 of these watches, I would have to say that this is probably
the most comfortable to wear of the three. And actually I have a smaller wrist, so this 40mm case size actually fits me a little bit better than the other two do. But you know, I don't mind wearing a slightly oversized watch for my wrist. Again, it's got the thinnest profile of them all. Fits well under a suit, under a shirt, under a long sleeve shirt, whatever you're wearing, it fits really well in, and it looks good with jeans or a wetsuit or a suit or a tuxedo. You see, this is a very popular watch. A lot of people have this watch. The popularity of it makes it easily recognizable and a classic. The bezel here is 120, clicks around. And as you see, even with the age of this watch, just more than 10 years old, there's zero wiggle at all on any part or piece of this thing. It is solid, almost like the day that it was assembled. Again, the brushed stainless steel that Rolex use. There are some scratches on this. Again, it's been used quite a bit, but they are not nearly as noticeable as scratches on either of these other two models over here. Nice crown guards, triple lock crown for water resistancy. It's got the white gold indices. The lume on this thing is actually still pretty good after all these years, and you'll see a comparison here at the end of the video. I'll put all of them up there. Well, there she is, guys. The last one of the bunch. My 3 favorite dive watches. Please leave comments or questions at the bottom, and I'll try to answer them and let you know more details if you need them. Thanks for watching.
When we look at the looms on the 3 watches there, and you can have a 4th one on the far right, it's the Seiko watch to compare them to. The 3 pearls are pretty good. Green on the Rolex and on the Omega, and then you see that the bezel indices around the Tudor are illuminated, like I talked about earlier in the video. It's pretty incredible how bright that is, and how bright the hour markers and the hands are inside of the watch. The Omega and the Rolex are very bright as well, but when you compare to that Tudor, there's something about how all that whole thing looms up. It's pretty striking in my opinion. And when you compare it with the Seiko at the end, they're all pretty comparable. Lume is lume. I do like that the Omega folks have made the pearl green and the minute hand green, as well as a little bit on the other side of the date window. They put a little bit of lume there, and I think that's a very nice touch. Overall, the 3 watches have pretty fantastic looms, and the Rolex, after 12 years, still being that bright, is pretty impressive in my opinion. I did realize when I was putting some of these pictures in that we hadn't even touched on pricing of these watches. Now, if we're talking about retail pricing, the Tudor and the Omega are going to be fairly comparably priced. You could probably find them at an authorized dealer anywhere from $4,100 to $4,600, depending upon where in the country you live. And whether you're in the U.S. or not. If you can find these watches over in St. Thomas or the Bahamas or somewhere in the Caribbean, you could probably negotiate down at an authorized dealer at a pretty good price. The Rolex is going to be touching $8,000 for a new date model in the islands, and probably about $8,500 to $9,000 at an authorized dealer in the U.S. You could probably get them all cheaper if you go with a gray market type of online presence or eBay. And if you're talking in the used market, you can certainly get a 16610 from the mid-90s, one of the Holz case ones, for around $5,200 or $5,300 for that Rolex Submariner. If you go something newer, it's going to be over $6,000. And if you find a vintage piece, some of those will be in the $10,000 or $12,000 range, depending upon what model Submariner it is and how desirable it is. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys leave some comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.